The single dad stepped out of his car, hands trembling as he smoothed his shirt, the words blind date echoing in his mind like a dare he never meant to accept. Tom's friends had insisted, promising it was time to move on, but their knowing smirks and whispered warnings. She's not your type. Tom, still stung, he pushed open the door to the cozy restaurant, the golden light spilling onto the sidewalk, and felt every eye turn as he entered. At a corner table, beneath the soft glow of a hanging lamp, sat an obese girl, Sarah, her posture uncertain, her eyes flickering between hope and dread. Tom's heart pounded, not from attraction or excitement, but from the weight of expectation and the fear of disappointing someone else. Again, the room seemed to hush, forks pausing midair, conversations dipping as strangers sized up the unlikely pair. Tom hesitated, caught between the urge to flee and the memory of his daughter's voice. Be brave, Daddy. He took a breath and walked towards Sarah. The world watching Tom had never imagined life as a single dad. But after losing his wife 3 years ago, every day had become a quiet battle. Mornings were a blur of packing lunches and tying shoelaces for Emma, his bright-eyed 8-year-old, who clung to him like a lifeline. At work, he wore a mask of competence, but loneliness gnawed at him in the silent hours after bedtime stories were read and lights were out. Friends tried to help, nudging him toward new beginnings, but their efforts often felt like reminders of everything he'd lost. Tom's kindness was real, but so was his hesitation. He stumbled over small talk, second-guessed every word, and worried he'd never be enough for anyone again. Still, beneath the awkwardness, a quiet hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, tonight could be different. The restaurant glowed with soft candle light, casting gentle shadows on brick walls and polished wood. Laughter and the clink of glasses drifted through the air, but beneath the warmth, Tom felt the sting of curious glances. Whispers seemed to ripple from table to table, subtle but sharp, as if the world was holding its breath. Sarah shifted in her seat, her hands twisting in her lap, her discomfort as visible as Tom's own unease. The cozy setting only made their isolation feel sharper. The distance between them and everyone else impossible to ignore. Tom slid into the seat across from Sarah, offering a tentative smile that barely masked his nerves. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for her water, her voice barely above a whisper as she greeted him. The air between them was heavy, every word weighed down by the awareness of watching eyes. From a nearby table, a group of young women giggled, their laughter sharp and pointed. Can you believe she's on a date? One murmured, not bothering to lower her voice. Another chimed in, he must be desperate. The words hung in the air, cruel and unmistakable. Tom's friends, perched at the bar, exchanged glances and smirks, nudging each other as if the outcome was already written. Sarah tried to steer the conversation, asking about Tom's daughter, but her words faltered under the weight of humiliation. Tom felt his cheeks flush, torn between the urge to defend her and the fear of drawing more attention. The pressure mounted, kindness warring with embarrassment, as he realized how much courage it took just to sit at this table. Sarah mumbled an apology and slipped away from the table, her vision blurring as she hurried down the narrow hallway to the restroom. Locking the door behind her, she pressed trembling hands to her cheeks, willing herself not to cry. Why did I let myself hope? She thought, staring at her reflection, searching for something lovable in the face she'd learned to avoid. Memories of laughter, never kind, always at her expense, echoed in her mind. Playground taunts, cruel jokes at parties, the sting of being overlooked or pitied. She felt the old ache of loneliness settle in her chest, heavier than ever. Maybe I'm just meant to be alone, she thought, her heart aching for someone to see past the surface. To see her as Sarah returned, her eyes red but her chin lifted. Tom watched her with a new understanding. He remembered the day Emma came home in tears, her classmates mocking her for the way she dressed, the way she spoke. He'd held his daughter close, wishing he could shield her from a world that judged so quickly and so harshly. Now, looking at Sarah, he saw the same pain, the same longing to be accepted, to be seen. Gently, Tom began to speak, his voice soft but steady. He told Sarah about Emma, about the cruelty she'd faced and the lesson he'd tried to teach her, that real beauty lives in kindness, in courage, in the way someone makes you feel safe. I tell my daughter every day, Tom said, meeting Sarah's gaze, that the world will always have people who judge, but the people who matter will see her heart. The tension in the room eased, the air growing lighter. If you believe everyone deserves to be seen for who they are, keep watching, because sometimes, One honest moment can change everything. Tom heard another snicker from the nearby table. The words meant to wound, and something inside him finally snapped. He stood, his chair scraping softly against the floor, and turned to face the group of young women. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. You know, it's easy to laugh at someone you don't know, but your words say far more about you than they ever could about her. The laughter died instantly, replaced by a stunned silence that rippled through the restaurant. Tom's friends at the bar stared, mouths open, as if seeing him for the first time. Sarah looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief and something like hope. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, the balance of power shifting. Tom's quiet courage had turned the tables, empathy shining brighter than cruelty ever could as the tension melted away. Soft music drifted through the restaurant, gentle and inviting. Tom turned to Sarah, his hand outstretched, eyes warm with sincerity. "Would you dance with me?" he asked, his voice steady and kind. For a heartbeat, Sarah hesitated, then placed her hand in his, rising from her seat. Together, they moved to the center of the room, swaying gently as the world watched in quiet awe. In that moment, every cruel whisper faded, replaced by something softer, respect, admiration, and the undeniable truth that she moderated as the evening drew to a close. Tom and Sarah found themselves laughing together, the sound light and real. A waitress stopped by with a gentle smile, and even a few diners offered quiet words of encouragement. Tom's friends approached, apologetic and humbled, finally seeing what they'd missed. When Sarah stepped out into the night, hope glimmered in her eyes, and Tom felt something inside him shift, a door opening, letting in warmth he thought he'd lost forever. What would you have done if you saw someone being judged for how they look? Share this story to remind the world, kindness is always beautiful. Your voice could be the one that changes everything for someone who needs it most.